Welcome back to the Max Your Dash podcast. Thank you for listening, liking, sharing, and now watching. This is the second video episode that we are releasing. We got some cool feedback on the first one, and we're having a lot of fun with it, right, guys?
Yes.
A lot of fun.
I do enjoy this a lot. I think this is a great way to communicate with our clients.
I think it's cool they get to see us.
And since the camera didn't put on 30 pounds, I just gained 30 pounds myself since the last podcast. That way, it's really doing its job.
Sure. So I think you just said something that's important. They get to see us because I feel like since COVID, we don't really see clients as much. We do a lot of Zoom meetings. A lot, sometimes you don't even turn your camera on.
We're looking at you, Steve.
Oh, is it me?
Yeah, we're looking at you, pal.
Listen, everyone knows.
Just a heads up, your clients now know what you look like.
They know.
I bet if you polled people though, like, do you want your camera on or not?
No,
most people don't want it on.
Yeah, no.
That's probably true.
So you're probably watching this on YouTube, or you could be listening to this. If you are listening to this, go over to YouTube, press the subscribe button, and click the like. I know that's what everyone says, but it really does help. For like reach and stuff like that as we're trying to grow and just be able to provide better content. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, subscribe. And then also hit the like button too, because that really helps to just push the video out to more people. And if you're listening to this, I think, Nate, you got some feedback and people are wondering if this is still audio. You can still listen to this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the places you were listening to it on audio. But again, we think there's a lot of value in providing video content as well. So this is going to be uploaded on YouTube as well. So just subscribe and send it a like. It helps us a lot. And obviously it lets you guys stay up to date with what we're doing and releasing. Cool.
Is it when you're on Spotify, does it do is the video on Spotify too now? No.
There's a way to do
There's no video capability on Spotify, is there?
Yeah, like Joe Rogan's or
you can watch his podcast on Spotify.
Yeah, if you're on your phone, if you're not driving around, the video. If anyone's got a video, it's actually playing the video on there.
Oh, I had no clue that was a thing. I don't think it does, but that's pretty cool. All right, let's do Max Your Dash moments. If you're new here, we do Max Your Dash moments in the beginning. Set the vibes off good. Essentially, a Max Your Dash moment is just a moment when we were feeling true joy and happiness. If you don't know what Max Your Dash means, go listen to the last episode on our first episode on YouTube. Who's up?
I'll go. So, one of my Max Your Dash categories, we got to come up with I don't know if category is the right word, but I'm picturing there's your dash things.
Yeah.
One of mine is food and cooking. I love to cook food. And I tried a new dish over the weekend, spaghetti carbonara. Did I say it right, Mark?
Close. Carbonara.
A resident Italian.
Carbonara.
Delicious.
Really?
Really, really good. Wife loved it. Had some leftovers. Just as good day two. It was awesome.
So that was good for you.
Was it better than homemade crunch wraps?
That's a different level of Max Your Dash.
was.
There's something romantic about eating a homemade Crunchwrap Supreme.
There is.
No, I would say this was better. Okay. Yeah.
Fair and just.
If for you guys who don't know, Nate, he's obviously a big in the kitchen, but he literally has a chalkboard menu in his kitchen where he writes down the menu for the week.
Yep.
It's
a big deal in the Elvers household.
Yep.
Mine is a thank you to daylight savings clock moving forward.
Mark has just turned these into Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, listen, I actually determined today, since this is now where there's consistency with this. Since the clock's moved forward, Enzo's now sleeping from 7 to 7. That means I can no longer rely on him to be the alarm clock, which was around 5:30 or 6 o'clock. He would wake up consistently for the last however many months. Even today, I was off to a late start because he didn't wake up until about 7 o'clock, 6:45 or something like that. I think that's when I woke up. So I got to set an alarm clock again, but getting full nights of sleep, which is really nice.
There you go. I think we always talk about this too. Yesterday, it was 6:30. I looked outside. It was still light. That's a Max Your Dash moment for sure. For us here in New York, oh, that feels so good.
We were here late last night in a client meeting, and we
it's
drove
still light?
home at 6:40.
Oh, yeah.
It was light out.
Gives you some juice.
It Especially if there's a little bit of a, like, even if it's cold and there's sunshine though and it's setting,
feels
give me
good.
that.
I can't believe that March was the first time I've had to break out my snowblower, which I think I've had 2 or 3 times this month. I've had to use my snowblower. Didn't use it. December, January, February, November, obviously.
We're just fighters in upstate New York.
Crazy.
We just fight.
We're built different.
Yep. My Max or Dash moment. So one of my best friends from high school, he's also my barber. He started doing like UFC and kickboxing and stuff like that. And he had his second fight. Me and a couple of my buddies went to Horseheads to watch him this weekend. I ended up winning. And it was a lot of fun. It was cool getting to see him like really work hard for something and then achieving it. It is cool to see like someone you're close to do that. And plus, it was just like fun, honestly. You guys ever been to a fight before?
No, I would actually. That's on my bucket list, is to go see like a really
UFC
big
fight.
UFC fight.
It's
or
probably
something.
crazy.
It's
Like
gotta
this
be
was
wild.
crazy going to see, and it was like a local kind of thing. Like it was an event. It was cool.
Yeah, the adrenaline's got to be insane.
Yeah.
Even like, you're obviously not fighting, but just
Right.
watching it.
Yeah.
And then if it's a friend, that makes it even more
Oh, I
intense.
was screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'd actually, if it was like my friend, I'd be like, I don't know if I'd like the way I'd feel.
I think so.
Did you?
Let's get you in the ring. You used to do jujitsu.
Yeah, I'll get in the ring.
All right, let's get into today's topic. Now, this is to our listeners. We have a goal for today's episode. We want this to be the best budgeting episode on the internet.
Yes.
This is going to be the best budgeting content on the internet.
Yep.
Those are some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
But I think we can accomplish that, I think.
Yeah. And we did an episode early on in our podcast venture on budgeting,
Yeah.
where we talked a lot about the basics of budgeting.
Yeah, it was like top 5 tips.
Yeah. Top 5 tips of budgeting, something catchy like that.
Yeah.
How do we make this the best possible episode on the internet? What do we have to accomplish in order for that to be the outcome?
I think what we're going to talk about, not many people have thought about it like this. From like, if you are a budget connoisseur of stuff, like you're trying to be a good budgeter, because there's so much stuff out there about it. If you're into the personal finance, there's a lot, but I never see this, at least for the most part.
So what is this?
Good question. We're going to do today is talk about the psychology behind it, because that's huge. Psychology and your money, but psychology and spending and budgeting literally go hand in hand. So we're going to set the stage with that, and then talk about some more like specific actionables that you guys can go and implement this. And we feel strongly that this is this is what we teach our clients. So I think that this could really provide some value. But let's start out with the psychology of it. And I think like the way that I start thinking about it is like the how you value your time versus money.
Yeah. You want me to dive in here?
Dive in.
Yeah. So I think, most budgeting conversations, our listeners are probably immediately thinking of like, all right, we're going to talk about, we got to build an Excel document or whatever. We got to track our spending and all that stuff. And I think it's fascinating to me, the psychology around spending behaviors. Like, people who would say they're not good budgeters have to take a step back and really like think about what's messed up in their psychology around the way they're spending their money first. Because at the end of the day, nothing's going to change unless their habits change, right? And so how do you rewire who you are basically so that you don't continue these behaviors, right? Because if you just map out a budget, how many times, Mark, have you done a budget before where you list all your expenses, but like 12 months later, that was a good idea, but you didn't even come close to following through, right? Or you've probably seen this a million times in your career with clients, right? So like, what holds people back from actually following through?
Well, I think there's a couple things. First one would be trying to be too perfect. That's a huge issue. And for me specifically, you know that about me. Trying to be too perfect, you're gonna fail. Lack of accountability, lack of follow through. So like if you set it and then forget, this is not something you can set it and forget it. Budgeting is like an ongoing. It's kind of like Max Your Dash. It's a way of life. if you want to be really good at budgeting, you got to make it a way of life.
And I think the thing that's interesting about it is like some of this stuff probably stems from your childhood, like the way you observed money growing up. Like, so I heard this great conversation about this the other day. Like they call it revenge spending. Like if you grew up with nothing, you have this like revenge spending mentality. Like now that you have money, you like want to buy nice things because it's like getting revenge on your childhood in a way. Like there's deep, weird psychology in some of this stuff. So how do we actually help our listeners like make a meaningful change in this area is what we want to talk about today. And I think
get into the book where this comes out of. Yeah.
So there's an amazing book that if you're somebody who wants to really get good at your spending behaviors, there's a book called Your Money or Your Life. And it does, in my opinion, the best job of like laying out a program to rewire your brain to prioritize your money better. It actually addresses the root cause of the problem, right? So like, again, there's a million resources out there on how to build a budget, but you got to address the root causes of the problem if you're going to actually make budgets work, right? So in the book, what they start with is you got to focus on the mindset of it. And if you're somebody that is spending and not doing a good job of like really tracking and you're not following through on budgets, you have to rewire your brain to start thinking about like you need to see this as a problem, right? And one of the things that I love about in that book, what they talk about is you need to view money as time, right? Like, so how you get money is through trading your time to go to work, right? When you go to work, you're giving your time 8 hours a day to get a paycheck, right? And then that money flows into your account and you spend it. And so they talk a lot in the book about money is something you trade your life energy for. And we, in our last episode, talked a lot about like the purpose of Max Your Dash and all the stuff we talk about is we only have so much time available. And how much of that gets spent working is crazy, right? I think we sort of maybe even broke that math down a little bit. It's wild, right? Like, so if you work 8 hours a day, your whole career, what percentage of your life energy was that? And so the whole point of the book is to help people get to a place where you're not working this job anymore that makes you kind of miserable. And so you have to really understand the connection between time and money and that you trade your life energy for a paycheck.
So how do you start getting in that mindset?
Yeah. So I think the first thing you should do is really try to understand like what's your hourly rate, right? So if you're somebody who makes $100,000 a year,
and we did this math, it was like $48, Mark, an hour. It was if you work 40 hours.
Yeah, $48 an hour if you're
listening to this, you make $100,000 a year, your hourly rate is $48 an hour.
Yeah. So if you do the math on that 40-hour work week, whatever, it breaks down to you earn $48 an hour. So every hour of work is worth $48, right? So you need to start thinking about purchases in terms of like hours that you had to work to get it. So, and it's wild, right? Because how easy is it today to go spend $200 on something and it doesn't feel like that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But if you think about it in terms of I have to go work 4 more hours to pay for that thing, it starts to feel like a little bit more of a bigger deal to you.
Yeah.
Right. And I love how it talks about, you know, every time, what was it that I was saying to you the other day about like, every time you purchase something that's $50, you have to work another hour in the future.
Yep. So that's less time. So every time you buy something, you have to work in the future to pay for that.
Yep.
Conversely, every time you save something, that's less time you have to work in the future.
Yeah. And in today's world, it's just so easy to spend money. And a lot of these purchases are not really bringing you joy.
Right.
They just become clutter. But you're not recognizing the fact that you're adding more hours to your future self that you have to work.
Right. So like think about if you make a impulse purchase, you make $100,000, you make an impulse purchase of like $500. How many hours is that? 500 divided by 40 quickly.
What?
500 divided by 40.
Is that the math?
48.
48. Yeah.
It's called 10 hours.
10 hours.
10 to 12 hours.
Yeah.
So you have to work 10 hours, which is...
Well, that's before... So I just am going through this calculator here. That's before taxes.
Oh, we got...
No, but this is the thing. So I don't know if I did a great job explaining that. Where people aren't being intentional enough and serious about this. Like, you're not, like, to the extent that you're trying to calculate it is how people should be viewing this.
Yeah.
Because if you really break down all the real costs involved in all this, like, it's crazy. One of the things that really stands out to me is, like, that I've learned after reading the book is like, how much do I have to work to pay for my vehicle?
Yeah.
Right. And so, like, my truck has a truck payment. I have car insurance that I have to pay for. I have gas. Right. And some of those things, they can't go away. Like, you have to have car insurance. It's like a law. But, like, it made me realize, like, oh my God, I have to work an entire week every month, my entire life, basically, to pay for a vehicle. How much joy am I actually getting out of that vehicle?
Yeah.
And where it helped me, again, I'm not a car person. Like, that's not my thing. It's not something that really brings me joy, but it's made me realize that I want to get to a place where I don't have a car payment, because it's robbing me of my future time.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just not providing enough joy.
Yeah.
You know, and that was really eye-opening for me, is when you start to calculate purchases in terms of time that you're trading for it.
Yeah.
It opens your eyes a lot.
You have to realize first that time is the most important asset. And I think a lot of the problem with budgeting, like you're asking Mark with this, is like, people think that it's supposed to be more, like you were saying, restrictive, and it's not, because, like, essentially, if you do this correctly, this should just allow you to spend your money on the stuff that actually makes you happy. So stuff becomes less clutter. You're not stressed with your purchases, and every dollar you spend has meaning to it. And so that should be the opposite of restricting. You're restricting the stuff that you don't want to spend your money on, and spending more money on the stuff that you do want to spend your money on.
Yeah, exactly. The goal here is, the best budgeters, in my opinion, are the people that, yes, they live within their means, but they are spending money in alignment to their values and the things that bring them joy. Those are the best budgeters. Like, so that's kind of the point of this, is when you start to recognize and make it more, you know, hit you in the face a little bit harder about how easy it is to waste money, and you just don't even realize it. That's when, you know, if you start to view purchases and you know, challenge yourself every time, that's the magic here.
Who do you guys think the best budgeter is at Dash Capital?
It's a good question.
It's got to be Matt.
Well, he could probably use some work on spending money on things that bring him joy.
It could be Jeff, maybe. We don't know.
It could be.
It could be Jeff. So you said this in the beginning, though, Nate, is like, it's all about the habits, though, of that. So let's talk about some actionables. Like, hopefully there's a light bulb moment for our listeners when you're talking about the how those things go hand in hand, the time and your purchases.
Yeah.
So what are some actionables? How can you start, like, implementing this with your budgeting? So hourly rate, obviously.
Yeah. So you have to. So I think step one is calculate your real hourly rate. Right. Take how much money you earn in a year, divide it by the amount of hours you spend working. Figure out your hourly rate, and then start viewing purchases as how many hours am I spending on this? I think a really great exercise for you to do is to pull up, like, your last 30 days of transactions and literally go through and calculate how many hours did I work on each one of these things. And then ask yourself this question: did I get enough fulfillment and value and joy out of this purchase to justify the amount of time I spent working to earn this money? Right. And like, what you should do is go through each line item, every transaction, and put, like, a little plus symbol next to the ones where you can say, yes, I did get enough value from this, and a minus to the no, and just look at that data and start to make better decisions around, like, changes you want to make in your life. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you don't change your habits on a daily basis, nothing's going to change. And so in order to be able to execute on daily changes, you've got to rewire your mindset, the way you think about all these purchases. So that's why we're kind of talking about, like, this conversion to your the amount of time you spend to earn that money, because I don't know of a better way personally to, like, reframe it and get you to actually change habits.
What that'll probably do too, like, doing the transaction, even if you did it for the last 30 days, you went through every transaction, by the end of those transactions, you will probably have a good idea, if you don't at this point, like, like spending your money on? What makes you happy?
Yeah.
Because you're going to see like the pluses and you're going to be like, oh, there's a trend of, because we talked about this in the first episode, is does anyone really know do you know what makes you happy?
Right.
And then it goes with your spending too. So I think that would be a powerful exercise. At least even do it for the last 30 days. Go through all your transactions.
Yep.
Mark, what's good? We talked about this a little bit. What are some stuff they can do on the actual website? Like, as you go through like everything on there?
Yeah. So the Your Money or Your Life energy calculator is pretty interesting. I think step one is still the max your dash, like understanding what is important to you. That's still the first step, but this is a pretty interesting example here. But for someone who makes $100,000, 40 hours a week, works 50 weeks of the year, so you're taking a couple weeks off, I put in 5% for state taxes. I think this is pretty accurate in here. But like, let's just say, it takes you 4 hours a week to get ready, 2 hours a week to get to work.
That's all in there? Like you put in drive time and that stuff?
You put in your commuting time. You put in your getting ready time. You put in your recovery time. And that's not, I thought at first this meant sleep. I think it's like recovering from work. So I just said intraday work too, like a couple hours a day. So 10 hours a week. You're giving up about half of your wages to taxes and just getting ready for work, getting to work, and recovering from work. So about half of your time at work is just gone. So like this example brings it down to $25.91 for the hourly wage after taxes, after commuting, after getting ready.
And this is for $100,000
Yes. Yep.
Because that stuff is you're saying because that stuff is technically work stuff that you're just not getting paid for. So it eats into your hourly. Like you're
okay. Yeah, well because it's part of work.
You have to get ready. That's part. Yes,
costs, yeah. So now you there's just because this is like a funny example you brought up over time about like paying, like having a really nice car because it's important to you. Mm-hmm. So let's imagine that your car payment is $1,000 a month. That's 38.6 hours that you're putting in for $1,000 monthly.
That's a week.
Car payment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a week of work to pay for your car.
Yeah. Then it gives you examples on here. If you have a $300,000 house, it's 4.1 years.
That has to be a light bulb moment. If someone's thinking that's my car payment and I'm like, oh my God, I am working a week to pay for my car.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think that the reason so many of us go through our lives and don't even care about this stuff is because like you don't see the slow like death that you're on.
Yeah.
Like you're not putting two and two together of like my car payment, my car insurance, my gas is restricting me from the ability to save more money to get to a place of financial independence. I think that's like all of this is that everybody listening should have a goal to get to financial independence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody should, right? Like, why would you not want to get to a place where work for you becomes optional? As we talked about in our last episode, you only have so much time in your life.
Yeah.
Do you really want to spend the greatest majority of your life working? Maybe you love what you do. And for those people, like I love what I do.
That's not work then though.
Right. But not everybody loves what they do, but they have to work for a paycheck, right? If you keep making these decisions day in and day out, you're making yourself have to continue to work. So getting really good at seeing that severity and making better decisions on a daily basis is going to get you to financial independence quicker. Mm-hmm. And getting to financial independence faster is going to give you the ability to spend more time in your life doing things you actually love doing. That's the whole point of this. Mm-hmm. But you have to be able to start to view daily decisions on spending as that important.
So how do you systematize this?
Good question.
Systems guy.
Big systems guy.
I think it's the thinking about it in terms of like you spend that hour on this thing, it's taking an hour from your future life away from you. Mm-hmm. Or you have to work an extra hour later to do that is a really good way to think about this mentally.
Yeah.
When you're making that purchase.
Yeah, I think you have to, in my experience, if you can't make whatever change you're trying to make in your life, if you can't make it visual so that you're seeing it every day, the likelihood of you following through is not great. Mm-hmm. So maybe an idea is like to take just the simple question that I said, like, does this purchase give me fulfillment, value, and joy to justify the cost of it. Like maybe you have that statement somewhere that you're going to see every day. Something, just, use your brain, get creative, and figure out a way. How am I going to make this visual for me every day until I become the kind of person that does this day in and day out? If you don't figure that visual piece out, I don't know if you're going to follow through.
Yeah.
In my experience, so from a system standpoint, I think that's an idea. I think the monthly finance meeting that we talk about in almost every episode is a huge opportunity for people. As part of your monthly finance meeting, check in with yourself. You go through and you rank those purchases and you put the plus symbol or minus symbol next to it. And I bet if people, again, it's so simple, but it's like crazy that people don't follow through on this. If you just did that for 3, 4, 5 months, how much different are you going to be thinking every day? So I think that's an easy system to implement. What ideas do you guys have?
This just made me think of this. I don't want to forget. Mark said in the beginning, don't try to be perfect. And that's, I think, like a big a big pitfall if you start doing this, because if you focus on perfection over progress, you're going to fail and it's not going to be a long-term solution. Just like if you don't work out at all and you want to start working out and you say, I'm going to go to the gym every single day. I'm going to do cardio for an hour. I'm going to eat perfect. You might have a good sprint of about a month, and then what ends up happening?
The motivation goes away.
Exactly. And that's when managing your money, it literally goes hand in hand with that stuff. You, like you were saying, don't try to be perfect with this stuff.
Well, let's give an example. So let's say you got somebody who they look at their budget and they've kind of figured out that the category. I love what you talk about trying to narrow what you're trying to improve to like 1 or 2 maximum categories you want to work on.
Bourbon.
Let's say
and dining out.
Yeah. Let's say that your category that you look at it and you're being really honest with yourself. You're like, you know what? I'm dining out too much and I'm really not getting, like, it's not adding that enough joy to my life. So dining out is the thing you want to get better at. And maybe you're historically spending like $1,500 a month on dining out. What advice would you guys give that person, building off what you're saying about like progress over perfection?
Yeah. I would more so think maybe you guys can think about it differently, not a dollar amount, but I would say like if you eat out 7 days a week, just start eating out 5 days a week instead. Yeah. Don't just stop ordering out. If you're if you order out once a day and you try to do it, if you just try to stop, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
That's the way that I would think about it.
That lines up with same, I guess, mentality around why I say focus on 1 or 2 things versus the whole budget here. Like if you, so the idea there is like if you focus on 1 or 2 things, you're not going to just all of a sudden make up for that lost dollar in some other category. You're not going to just all of a sudden start spending a lot more on other things.
Yeah.
So you instead of saying I got to go from $1,500 a month down to $500 a month, you cut the days down because now you're not going to, just because you were doing 7 days before and you were spending $700 just to make it easy math. You're not going to all of a sudden start spending $700 on 5 times dining out.
Yeah.
You're right.
You're going to spend less.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to order more.
And more than likely, there's going to be, if you pick one category you're going to focus on, maybe when you look at your budget, there's actually 5 categories you need to make better. But if you pick one and you start executing on the thing, there's probably a trickle-down effect on all these other areas. So like your mind's just going to start to get more productive and you're going to be like, okay, I don't need to spend over here either and over here either.
Do it for 66 days and then pick a new one.
Yeah.
Why 66 days?
66 days to build a habit.
Is that it? That's debatable.
Not 20.
Yeah, I feel like it used to be
21.
Like, it used to?
I think so.
There's a lot of, there's some mixed information.
You probably got some thoughts on this.
66 days is really hard to stick to, by the way.
Did you ended up doing that, right? Did you hit all 66 when we were on that for when you had it on your fridge?
Yeah.
Did you hit 66?
Yeah, 2 tackles a day. And I've done it for probably 600 days in a row. But no, the James Clear in the Atomic Habits talks about like why it's so important to start small. Because if you think about it, like, so going back to our example, you got someone wants to get better at dining out. They spend $1,500 a month. If they try to go from $1,500 to $500 and then they mess up, you feel like a failure. And eventually human beings for some reason, this is just the way we're designed. Apparently you're just going to give up eventually. If you continue to fail at something, you generally are going to give up. But if you go from saying, all right, month one, instead of 1,500, I'm just going to get to 1,200 or less.
Yeah.
You increase the likelihood of following through. And what happens is psychologically, you become the kind of person that's getting things done.
Yeah.
And so then you scale from there. You go from 1,200 to 1,000, 1,000, whatever. And you actually become someone who gets there.
Yeah.
And I know some people might laugh at that and think, oh, that's so stupid. Just, work harder, get better, faster. Whatever. And sure, there's some percentage of the population that can just go from 1,500 to 500.
Yeah.
But most people have to make incremental progress. And the key here is becoming the kind of person that gets things done.
Right.
When you make it too big of a change, you introduce a higher likelihood that you're not going to follow through.
Yeah.
And then you're the kind of person who doesn't get things done. And that person gives up eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, we always talk about that is become the type, like your goal shouldn't be save $10,000 in your emergency fund. The goal should be become the person, like, how would you say it? Become a person who can save their money, or become the type of person
who's good with money.
Instead of saying like, I'm going to save $10,000 in my emergency
identity-based beliefs.
Yes. Yep. That's it. So
I think we've hit on like the main points here, but I want to stress again, like, you have to recognize that each day you're making these they seem like small decisions that are not really going to make a big impact, but all you're doing is just making your future life harder on yourself, and you have to be able, and that's what's hard about personal finance and budgeting, is that when you buy something on Amazon today that you didn't really need, you don't recognize how bad of a decision that was, because it's not like impacting you today. Really,
yeah.
So this whole process that we're talking about is to rewire your brain to see the severity of it sooner, so you can get to a place of financial independence sooner.
I think it's so interesting how directly this correlates to Max Your Dash, and it's just all about like realizing that the time you have is finite, and how that relates to your finances. It's like so crazy how they go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And especially budgeting. Okay, I think the big thing though is like the actionables. So let's review those. I'm going to link this in the description, but what's the website here that they're going to go to, and they do the hourly rate, all the stuff you were talking about right on there, Mark?
Yeah, you can. So your money or your life energy calculator,
Okay.
You can do it on there, but I mean, you can figure this out on
Okay.
Our simple, like our Excel sheet that, just do math on there. But this is a nice way to do it.
Yeah, it still looks like going through the exercise probably gets you in the mindset though.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree.
So I'll have this linked, and then we're going to also link our budget template that we use with our clients. If you're a client, it'll be familiar to you, but if you're not, we'll link our free budget template if you don't have one, which is literally just categorizing what you're spending your money on and your income, and it automatically kind of shows you your surplus.
Yeah, I was thinking, you're like, those are actionables, but who should be thinking about this stuff? I think a lot of times there's people who don't think they need to worry about budgeting because they make a lot of money and it's not really an issue. Like, they're saving a good amount of money. Everything's under control. They're not racking up credit card debt. That's like, this mentality around budgeting applies to everyone, because if you want to stop working sooner rather than later, this still applies to you. It doesn't matter if your budget's in a really good shape and you've got enough money coming in versus expenses and you're saving a good amount of money. If you want to get to the point where financial independence, financial security, whatever you want to call it, it still applies to you. If you want to stop working earlier in life, and you still should be making these smart decisions, being smarter with that dollar, because it's like that hour that you're spending on buying Chipotle today is an hour that you have to work later for.
Yeah.
Or not. Yeah.
And even if you love your job, your health may not let you work forever. So you should care about financial independence too. Yeah. So it's not just for people that don't like their job, but I think it's a true statement that a lot of people are not getting a lot of fulfillment and joy every day working 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to a place of financial independence should be a goal, and we can help people figure out how realistic that can be done. And it's crazy to me. Like, I feel like it's so much more achievable than people realize.
Mm-hmm.
But it starts with getting really good alignment on the way you're spending your cash flow.
Yeah.
Do you notice that younger people have had more exposure to budgeting or maybe already doing budgeting than older people? Because I feel like I've noticed that like the people who are nearing retirement, we always have to ask that question. Like, so what do you need coming in the door in retirement? Very hard question for a lot of our older clients to answer. Probably all of them. They can take a stab at it. They can make a guess, but they haven't really done budgeting very often or ever in their life. Some of that's probably technology related. Like they just, Excel didn't exist 30 years ago, so they never got into the habit of doing that. But younger people maybe have a little bit more exposure to it, or have thought about it a little bit more. But imagine you're the person that's been doing this for 20 years, how much easier it is to be in tune with what that number is down the road to really understand whether or not you can retire. That's the budget's one of the biggest parts about that. Being able to retire.
Yeah, I think that there's so many great tools out now for younger people that they're using that the older generation maybe isn't. But I also argue that young people are spending money at a rate that's just not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like how easy is it to just today order 10 things that are going to be here tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Keeping the economy
and
going.
It's great, but
how much do you guys think financial stress comes from just budgeting and spending? Like if someone is feeling stressed about their money, how much of that do you think is correlated to budgeting and spending? A lot. You think?
Yeah.
Like more than 50%? Like if their spending was fine, they'd be a lot less stressed.
Yes. It's like the one controllable in your finances. Everything, like most things in personal finance, are not really controllable. You can't control the market. You can't control, you can control some aspects of your job maybe, but your spending, very controllable.
Yeah.
So getting that under control, I think, would solve a lot of the stress that you're getting out there.
Yeah, I think having a system and automating it so that there's not really a whole lot of thought that has to go into it is really important too. Because once you've kind of gone through all these exercises, what's really important to you. You know how much it costs you to do, your hourly rate that things cost, or the amount of time things cost. And then you have it systematized. You can, when financial stress is gone, I think that's a really big.
I just thought of something interesting. How many clients have you worked with where you'll hear them say something like, well, if my husband didn't spend so much money, or the vice versa? Like, a really good exercise that they talk about in the book. So one of these takeaways should be read this book.
Read the book.
Or at least read the summary.
Yeah.
But one of the first things they want you to do to make this really smack you in the face is to calculate how much money have you earned in your career so far and what do you have to show for it.
Oh, yeah.
You can go to ssa.gov and see your career earnings, like literally going back to your first job when you were 16. Anything you've ever reported is in there. So you can add up over your career how much have you earned, and then look at what do we have to show for it. And so, and again, like that is like dramatic, but that's like the stuff you have to do to actually change your mindset on a daily basis. So like for those couples that maybe one's a spender, the other's not, like, and you're trying to figure out how am I going to change this, yelling at that person all the time is not going to work really good. Go through the book together, go through those exercises together, see what happens. Probably going to have some really good conversations as a couple on this.
Yeah, the exercise might not like feel great initially, but it'll help you to change your habits moving forward.
Oh, this is, I would imagine that doing this stuff for the first time is going to be uncomfortable. But that's the point. Like, no one's going to feel great doing this to start.
Nope. But like everything in life, if you're trying to really make a meaningful change, you have to be honest with yourself. You got to face the brutal facts.
Yeah. What we say was like, you make $100,000 for like from 25 to 35, you made $1 million already.
Yeah. That math checks out. I think it was like from age 21 to 35, you had to average like $66,000 a year, and you've made $1 million.
Oh, $66,000. Yeah. Yeah. Which is
$1 million. You're 35 and
you've made $1 million.
How much you have to show for it so far.
Right. And you can't, like, the takeaway is you can't get that time back. Like, you cannot buy back more time. Like, obviously saving more, but like that money, the time that you've already used to make that money is not coming back.
Correct. And time is everything.
Everything. I think we.
Is this the best episode on the internet?
It should be. This is like hopefully the light bulb moment hit.
Mm-hmm. Read the book. Let's come. You want to summarize?
Summarize the actionables.
Key points.
Most of the stuff is going to be in the description, guys, that you guys can do. But if you do this right after you're done watching this, you will see growth or your money back.
I'm not wrong in saying that this is the most controllable part about your financial life, right? You're managing your budget is the big thing you can control the most.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So figure out, go on, what is it again? Your money, your life?
Your money or your life.
Okay. Yeah, and you can figure out your hourly rate on there. And then what Nate said, pull up all your transactions, however you're tracking that. If you're a client, go on your portal and the spending tab. And just do it for the last 30 days. Do a plus if it aligned with your values and what makes you happy. Do a minus if you're looking back on it and you're like, no, probably shouldn't have done that. What that's going to do is it's going to start training your brain to just be more intentional.
Make it visual.
Yep. You should be able to figure out too, like how many hours of your, this is so hard, I can't ever keep this straight, but how many hours of your income is going towards things that make you happy, right?
Yeah.
So like figuring out, all right, I want to spend this many hours, literal time, but also dollars on those things every month. So it's not all about, like we said, not all about restrictive, but also figuring out how much you actually want to spend on the things that make you happy.
Yep.
And then you said the make it visual.
Make it visual.
Yes.
Find, use your creativity to think of a way to make it so you can see this every day. A lot of ideas there. Put it on the background of your phone. Stick it on your bathroom mirror. Put it in your car. I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't
hide from it.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you don't follow us on Dash Capital Advisors, do that. We're going to post a lot of cool clips from this episode. We're just all about providing like the value and easy for you guys to consume this content. But I think it'd be cool. Like, why don't we have them DM us like after they've done the transactions and like let us know how the exercise went and what the biggest takeaway was. And I'm guessing the takeaway will be like, I'm spending my money on this and I shouldn't. I want to spend more of my money on this. Essentially what the pluses and the minuses were.
Yep.
If we're teaching people very effectively how to do this, and then it ends up getting people out of the workforce by 45, are we hurting the U.S.?
Yeah, you think we are?
That's funny. It's funny you say that because that's one of like the myths that they go through in this book is like that you're helping the economy, like something along those lines. I forget what it was.
70% of our GDP comes from us spending money.
That's a good point.
Only 70%.
Well, we want you to spend more money just on the stuff that you want to.
Don't worry. There's plenty of people out there that are not going to do this.
That's true.
Anything else? I think we hit right on the time limit, guys.
We're good.
Okay. Like I said, if you guys watch this and if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and hit the like button because it helps us a lot. Obviously, reach as we try to grow this. So, cool.
All
right, guys. Thank you for watching the Max Your Dash podcast. We will catch you guys in the next one.